for example, we have a scientist who's super strong mind, highly conscious of his discipline. But with a low self-awareness, they become evil geniuses. They use that high level of consciousness to harm other people. So that's showing that their level of self-awareness does not match their consciousness. In the reverse, you can meet a simple indigenous person who maybe can't even read or write, but they are so loving. They have a self-awareness, and their love is so pure that their self-awareness is really, really high. So these two things don't normally go together, but by the end of our journey, they do. We make them together. And that's self-realization, of course. Comparing our core values, our behavior with core values, that's the point. We have these core values and we study them, we try to develop them in us, but we have to compare our behavior to them in order for them to be benefited by them. So they should guide our internal spiritual life, and they guide our external worldly life too. And these core values are related to the 5 golden keys, but it's the core values that help us turn the keys to unlock the doors to the heavens. The heavens, kingdom of the heaven is in us. It's not within us, it's in us. And the difference here is if you have something like, I have coffee within this, right? But when we say in us, it means in every particle of our being. The kingdom of heavens is in every particle of our being. We're not attentive to it. We don't have to create it. We don't have to go someplace in time or space. We do in time, I guess. We just have to find it and open it up, reveal it, realize it. So all these things are working together. So when I say the kingdom of heaven is in us, I'm saying the same thing as it's in the nature of our inner self. So each day of the seminar, we're going to start with one of the golden keys, talk about it a little bit, and then talk about other core values that relate to it. And then we're also going to have some other teachings involved in there too. So is it really hard to do this? To use these core values, to turn these golden keys? Is it a hard thing or an easy thing? Well, it's a very hard thing if you're only listening to your egotism. Very hard to do this. But it's not hard at all if you're following the guidance of your inner self. So as you advance spiritually, what happens is you pay less attention to the promptings of the egoism that upsets you, that bother you about things, that get you to react feeling offended or wounded. And you start to follow this still, they used to call it, when I was young, they called it the still small voice. But it's really, there's nothing small or still about it. It's just our awareness of it is so faint because our attention's all out here. It's not inside. So today we want to start with the key of observation. In observation, I'm going to say this and I'll explain it. In observation, we're using the formless mind supersubstance to know the truth. Now, for those who are new to the teachings, the mind, when we say mind, we don't mean our thinking mind. We don't mean our brain. We mean the divine substance, well, I should say holy substance, holy supersubstance, of which all the worlds of creation are made. All of our bodies, our material body, our emotional body, psychical body, the noetical body, which is the mental body, all these things are composed of this substance in varying degrees of vibrations, all the way down to the lowest level. Matter is solid mind, capital M. When we talk about our mind, we use the small case m. So we're going to start with observation. We're going to use this mind supersubstance, which we're using all the time, but we're using it unconsciously, subconsciously. Where do you get your thoughts from? Thoughts aren't, your brain doesn't kick out thoughts. There's something you as a being, as an entity, as a self, are doing with this mind supersubstance to formulate it into thoughts. So we use this to understand the reality around us, to know what impressions or effects everything is having on us. And in the thirst to approach to know these things, we first have to use observation. So we start learning and knowing the truth behind everything, every event, every feeling, every thought. Not that it's an easy thing, but it's very, very necessary for us to become conscious to do this. To be sincere with ourselves, and to use the spotlight. It's like a spotlight. Observation is like a spotlight. You want to look for something, you turn on the light, right? It's the same thing in us. When we're looking at trying to understand ourselves or our relationships or God or anything, we have to turn that light of observation on to understand it. So observation means we make every effort to notice and see things around us. What we are seeing in our life, in our relationships, in our hearts. What's in our minds? What's in your mind? Are you paying attention to what your mind's, Cat Small M, speaking all the time? Now, Descos just used to say, nothing, and he'd slap his leg, nothing must escape our attention. That's observation. So, just in simpler words, the aim of observation is to become fully awakened. As we said last night, most of humanity is in the subconscious phase. They're not in the awakening phase yet. So, but most people on the spiritual path are standing at the border, looking at the boundary of the awakening state of consciousness from the edge of the subconscious phase. And all of you here are that way. And again, subconsciously just means people are living mechanically, habitually. So we have to remember that our purpose of incarnation is to raise through these levels of consciousness from the instinctual stage, which we've all passed through. Everybody here has passed through. But you know there's still people on the planet living in the instinctual phase of consciousness. There are still people on the planet that this is just, it's not maybe their first, but it's probably their second or third incarnation. There are still people living that way. Yes?
But does this mean that we live in a human form, in this instinctive level of consciousness, not like, or which would be the difference with the instinctive level of consciousness with, for example, another expression, like an animal?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. The animal's instinctual consciousness is given to them by the archangel behind it. The animal isn't processing and moving through levels of consciousness. He's giving his he gets his instinctual consciousness from the archangel behind it that created it. And if you look around, you say, well, the instinctual consciousness of a dog is not the same as the instinctual consciousness of a chipmunk or something. Everyone has their kind of own level to it, and they don't move through it. But the human being, when he first incarnates, he's just like the animal in the first ones. So he's just, it's about sleep, sex, food, shelter, all that primitive stuff. And he's just an animal. He's fighting his territory, protecting and nurturing his family. But they don't really have a sense of self at first. But then what happens? Well, the whole point of being here is to get experiences to help us raise our consciousness, to go through these levels of consciousness. So the first thing that starts happening, he finds himself in this super hostile environment, the caveman. Pandemonium, it was crazy. They were having to carry clubs to defend themselves and to kill small animals to eat. It was horrible. But each of those experiences, the experience of fear when a wild animal is trying to get it, makes him start to think. Because he's instinctual, you're not really thinking. So he starts to think. He starts to use his mind. He thinks, oh, I need a bigger club or something. He just starts to think. And slowly, the instinctual consciousness, he starts to go through the levels of instinctual consciousness, becoming less instinctual, more and more toward he gets to the edge, and he passes into the subconscious phase, which is what most of humanity is in right now. So, by practicing any spiritual practices, authentic spiritual teaching, we are moving ourselves. We're accelerating ourselves through this thing. That's why we make all this effort. That's why we try to meditate. That's why we try to study and understand stuff, because we want to accelerate our movement through these levels, which just simply means to move into a much better way of living and understanding ourselves, life, and other human beings. It's a much better way of living, more meaningful, more capable, happier. Now, the awakening level of consciousness has a lot of degrees, like we said last night. We talked a lot about that. So let's say, we'll go back to observation. But moving through any of these levels, it's just not possible without observation. If you're not paying attention, you're not really spiritually developing, I guess I should say. So observation is literally attentiveness, being on the alert. And so many people go through life with just a vague notion about their life, where they're going, how their place in this world, or how any of this works, because they haven't really developed this power of concentration. At least not enough to penetrate deeply into the reality they find themselves in. But the practice of observation needs the other golden key of concentration. If you can't concentrate well, you're not going to be able to observe well, or hold your attention and meditate properly. Observation and concentration enables us to skillfully investigate the outer world we live in and the inner world. We're citizens of the two worlds. So all the 5 golden keys we're going to talk about, observation, concentration, visualization, introspection, meditation, interact and work with each other. They're not isolated from each other. So with the increased skill of observation, you can extend this ability into all the areas of your life. And actually, the more you do it, you realize observation has become your way of life. We develop our latent power of observation to expose incorrect thinking, negative emotions, enslaving desires, unhealthy life patterns, and all these illusions that we suffer through, basically. And then for the purpose to, all those things seal us off from the loving life and the happy life that all of us are looking for. And we say developing the power of observation, this is, it's not like we're going to go get something. This is a latent, observation is a latent power within us right now, within everybody right now. So we're not creating it, we're just trying to uncover it and unfold it.